Standard form. When I'm doing standard form, I would write them in standard form. To write an ordinary number in standard form, you put the arrow after the first number that's not a naught. So this one here becomes 3 times 10. It's always times 10. And then how many times do you move the decimal point? Once, twice, 3 times. So for this question here, it becomes 4.1 times 10 to the minus 5 times 3 times 10 to the 3. What you actually need to be doing with this question now is multiply the ordinary numbers. So 4.1 times 3. 4, 8, 12. 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So it becomes 12.3 times 10. And then you've got 10 to the minus 5 times 10 to the 3. When you multiply indices, the rules of indices when you multiply is you add the powers. So x to the m times x to the n becomes x to the m plus n. So what that means is you've got x to the minus 5 times x to the 3, or in terms of this question, 10 to the minus 5 times 10 to the plus 3. And minus 5 plus 3 is you start a naught, you go down 5, and then you come up 3, is 10 to the minus 2. So for this question here, you've got 12.3 times 10 to the minus 2. And to change that, it asks you for the answer in standard form. That's very close, but with standard form, the first number's got to be between 1 and 10. So for this one, the arrow goes in there, and you have to become 1.223. It stays as times 10. And because if I just show you why, 12.3 times 10 to the minus 2 would be minus 1 minus 2 would be 0.123. So because it's now one place over, it's moving it one place over. Instead of being 2 over, it becomes 1. So it's 1.23 times 10 to the minus 1. I'm going to do the same with this one now below. This one below, I'm going to use my rules of indices, okay? So when I'm doing this one here, I'm asking myself, I'm going to do 1.5 divided by 3, and then I've got times 10 to the 3 times 10 to the 6. So for this question here, okay, what that actually means, I'm going to work out the ordinary number. 1.5 divided by 3 is 0.5. And now I got 10 to the 3 times 10 to the 6. When you multiply indices, you add the power. So it becomes 0.5 times 10 to the 9. What that actually means, it moves over 9 places. So 1. So if you want the arrow to be between 1 and 9.9, you would have to go there. So it would be 5. Because you're moving over one place, it would now be taking a power of, because you've multiplied by 10 to go from 0.5 to 5, you're taking a power off. So for that one, it would be 5 times 10 to the 8. Next question. I would change the bottom one to standard form. So 6,000 becomes the arrow goes after the first number that's not a naught. And because the arrow goes after the first number that's not a naught, it becomes 6 times 10. And then it's 1, 2, 3 places. And then you're doing 2.7 times 10 to the 10 divided by 6 times 10 to the 3. So 2.7 divided by 6. So you're asking yourself, how many 6's go into 2.7? 6 into 2 doesn't go, so you put a 0 there. And then you carry the 2. How many 6's in 27? 4 6's are 24. And you got 3 left over. How many 6's in 30? 5. So it becomes 0.45 multiplied by 10. And then when you divide indices, you take them away. 10 take away 3. So it becomes 0.45 times 10 to the 7. Which means, because I now need to move the arrow over 1, so it becomes 4.5. Because I've times it by 10 to go over 1, you've got to take a power away. So it becomes 4.5 times 10 to the 6. Next question. 4.5 times 3 times 10 to the minus 2 times 10 to the minus 3. So 4.5 times 3. 3 0.5s are 1.5. 3 4s are 12, add them together. So it becomes 13.5 times 10. When you multiply indices, you add them together. So minus 2 add minus 3, which becomes minus 2 minus 3, which is minus 5. So you get 13.5 times 10 to the minus 5. I now need to bring the divide by 10. I'm bringing it over 1 because I need it between 1 and 10. So it becomes 1.35. And what happens then is, because the point is going backwards, you add a power on. So it becomes minus, it'd be 1.35 times 10 to the minus 4. Next one, I would change the bottom one into standard form, so it becomes 5 times 10 to the 3. So you've now got 7.5 times 10 to the 6 divided by 5 times 10 to the 3. How many 5s in 7.5? How many 5s in 7 don't go? Sorry, it goes once. How many 5s? So if 1 5 is 5, 2 left over. How many 5s in 25? 5. So it becomes 1.5 times 10. When you divide indices, you take them away. So 6 take away 3 is 3. And that's already between 1 and 10. So that one's done. Next question. Okay. You're doing 2.3 times 10 to the 3 plus 6.4 times 10 to the 4. For this one, there's no rule of adding the powers of indices. You need to change them into ordinary numbers. So 2.3 times 10 to the 3, once, twice, 3 times, is 2,300. 6.4 times 10 to the 4 goes once, twice, 3, 4. So you've got 64,000 plus 2,300 is 66,300. But they want the answer in standard form. So for 66,300, the arrow goes after the first one as not a naught. So it becomes 6.63 is always times 10, and 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the 4.